Reading how we read Mysticism by Evelyn Underhill.
Don't sweat or sweating.
She seems very good analyst. She undertook to analyze mysticism.
She sounds like a great mind.
Good mind. We had left off like, but the secret of genius still eludes us, as the secret of life eludes the biologist. We come to page 34. We continue. The utmost we can say of such persons is that reality presents itself to them under abnormal conditions and in normal terms, and that's subject to these conditions. And in these conditions, they are bound to deal with it. Thanks to particular mental makeup, one aspect of the universe is, for them, focused so sharply that in comparison with it, all other images are blurred, vague, and unreal. Hence the sacrifice which men of genius, mystics, artists, inventors, make of their whole lives to this one objective, this one vision of truth, is not self-denial, but rather self-fulfillment. It seems they made self-fulfillment instead of denial, but they gather themselves up from the unreal in order to concentrate on the real. The whole personality then absorbs or enters into communion with certain rhythms or harmonies existent in the universe, which the receiving apparatus of other selves cannot take up. Here is the finger of God, a flash of the will, that can, exclaims apt Vogler, as the sounds grow under his hand. The numbers came up, says the poet. The sounds and the numbers came up. He knows not how, certainly not by deliberate intellection. Is that a word? It was deliberate intellection. Did you intellect?
Writers make words.
To intellection. So it is with the mystic. Do you do intellection? So it is with the mystic. Madame Guyon states in her autobiography that when she was composing her works, she would experience a sudden and irresistible inclination to take up her pen, through feeling wholly incapable of literary composition and not even knowing the subject on which she would be impelled to write. If she resisted this impulse, it was at the cost of her most intense discomfort. It's interesting how you could be compelled to write something.
Yeah.
You could be literally compelled to meditate.
Yeah, that's why they say I had a call. Some people, they say it that way.
Some of the reasons I get up and meditate is I literally can't stay in bed. I have to go up to upright. She would then begin to write with extraordinary swiftness, words, elaborate arguments, and appropriate quotations coming to her without reflection, and so quickly that one of her longest books was written in 1.5 days.
What is her name?
Madame Guyon. Madame Guyon.
Let me see.
You can look her up there. You got a phone there. The purpose of the iPhone is to look up women mystics.
The correct name, though.
That's the purpose of the phone.
What's the name?
Madame Guyon. Guyon. The purpose of the phone is to look up mystics.
No first name?
Just Madame Guyon. Well, there may be a footnote, but you can find her. In writing, I saw that I was writing of things which I had never seen, and during the time of this manifestation, I was given light to perceive that I had in me treasures of knowledge and understanding, which I did not know that I possessed. Madame Guyon. Yeah, well, she's a writer, I suppose. Similar statements are made of Saint Teresa, who declared that in writing her books, she was powerless to set down anything but that which her master put into her mind. So Blake said of Milton and Jerusalem, I have written poems from an immediate dictation, 12 or sometimes 20 or 30 lines at a time without premeditation. This is not uncommon at all. Without,
God.
who wants to premeditate? Without premeditation.
It's interesting, she's known as Madame
And
Jean,
even
Jean
against my will. He wrote him against his will. Blake is forced to write it. The time it has taken in writing was thus rendered non-existent. And an immense poem exists which seems to be the labor of a long life, all produced without labor or study. Yeah, well, these are, of course, extreme forms of the strange power of automatic composition, in which words and characters arrive and arrange themselves in defiance of their author's will, and of which most poets and novelists possess a trace. Such composition is probably related to the automatic writing of mediums and other sensitives, in which the often disorderly...
She was accused of advocating quietism. That's quietism means like the silence.
And incoherent subliminal mind seizes upon this channel of expression, the subliminal mind of the great mystic, however, is not disorderly. Remember how I said spirituality is not goofy?
Full name.
It is abnormally sensitive, richly endowed, and keenly observant, a treasure house, not a lumber room. And besides, in the course of its education, a highly disciplined, skilled instrument of knowledge. When, therefore, its contents emerge and are presented to the normal consciousness in the form of lucidity auditions, visions, automatic writing, and other translations of the supersensual into the terms of sensible perception, they cannot be discredited because the worthless unconscious region of feebler natures perhaps sometimes manifests itself in the same way.
1648.
Her. Let me see her. Put her down.
1648.
Madame Guyon. Wow, that's old. Okay, very good. Idiots are often valuable, but many orators are sane. Now, to sum up, what are the chief characteristics which we have found to concern us in this sketch map of the mental life of man? Wow. Seems she's analyzing basically everything here. We have divided that life arbitrarily enough along the fluctuating line which psychologists call the threshold of his consciousness into the surface life, and it's hard to read this, and the unconscious depths in the surface life. Though we recognized its essential wholeness, we distinguished three outstanding and ever-present aspects: the trinity and unity of feeling, thought, and will. Amongst these, we were obliged to give the primacy to feeling as the power which set the machinery of thought and will to work. We have seen that the expression of this life takes two complementary forms of conation, or outgoing action, and cognition, and indwelling knowledge. Poems. I love my God. We could look at her. Indwelling knowledge, and that first, which is dynamic in type, is hardly the work of the will, stimulated by the emotions, whilst the second, which is passive in type, is the business of the intellect. They answer to the two main aspects which man discerns in the universal life: being and becoming, neither conation nor cognition. It's like being and thought, action nor thought. Neither of them are performed by this surface mind, concerned as it is with natural existence and dominated by spatial conceptions, is able to set up any relations with the absolute or transcendental world. Such action and thought deal wholly with the material supplied directly and indirectly by the world of sense. The testimony of the mystics, however, and of all persons possessing an instinct for the absolute, points to the existence of a further faculty. Indeed, a deeper self in man, a self which the circumstances of diurnal life usually keep below the threshold of his consciousness, and which thus becomes one of the factors of his subliminal life. This hidden self is the primary agent of mysticism, and lives a substantial life in touch with the real or transcendental world. 5. Certain processes of which contemplation has been taken as a type can so alter the state of consciousness as to permit the emergence of this deeper self, which, according as it enters more or less into the conscious life, makes man more or less a mystic. If you do contemplation, you become a mystic.
Certainly, because you somehow you're not like any artist with like.
We read from page 34 on continuing mysticism in Evelyn Underhill.